blood, oxygen tank, emergency announcements echoing through the hospital hallway. Retired Detective Michael Roberts' shaking hands gripped the white hospital sheet. His eyes were locked on Rico, who lay motionless on the bed across from him. The German Shepherd's chest rose and fell slightly as he struggled to breathe. The IVs connected to his veins shimmered under the cold light of the room. "Come on, buddy. Don't leave me," Michael whispered, leaning close to Rico's ear. "Look at me just one more time." Rico's eyes flickered slightly, but didn't open. When the veterinary nurse entered the room, tears were already streaming down Michael's cheeks. Dr. Sarah Patel, the leading veterinary surgeon who had been working on Rico for hours, placed a gentle hand on Michael's shoulder. "Detective Roberts, I need to be honest with you. His injuries are extensive." Michael's mind flashed back to the countless times Rico had saved his life over their partnership. The Riverside drug bust where Rico had sniffed out the hidden gunman, the Macaulay kidnapping case where Rico tracked the child through miles of forest in pouring rain. Now, here they were. "Rico's been through worse," Michael insisted, though his voice cracked. "Remember that warehouse fire in 2019? 3 days in critical care and he bounced right back." Officer Jenna Martinez, who had been partnered with Michael's team for the past 3 years, stood silently by the door. She remembered the stories of Rico's legendary tracking abilities and unwavering loyalty. The department had named an annual K9 Excellence Award after him even before his retirement. "You can't leave now, Rico," Michael continued, gripping the edge of the hospital bed. "What about all those tennis balls waiting at home? What about our fishing trips? How did Rico end up in this hospital room? Why was his retired police handler by his side as he fought for his last breath? What had brought the decorated K9 officer and his partner back into the line of fire after their retirement?" Captain Thomas Chen entered the waiting room outside, his uniform still dusty from the scene. "Any change?" he asked Officer Martinez. "Nothing yet," she replied. "The doctor says the next few hours are critical." The captain nodded grimly. "I've known Michael and Rico for 15 years. They're the reason I joined the K9 division. If Rico doesn't pull through..." The words hung in the air as the hospital machines continued their rhythmic beeping, measuring each moment of Rico's struggle for life as the team waited for any sign of improvement. This was the beginning of a story about their final mission together that would change both their lives forever. The double doors at the police department entrance swung open loudly. Michael Roberts was on his last day after a 28-year police career. His black hair had turned gray, and the wrinkles around his eyes had deepened. But that sharp look in his eyes was still alive despite years of exhaustion. "Last day, huh, Roberts?" said Officer Jenkins at the reception. "Is Rico ready for the big goodbye?" Michael smiled while petting the head of Rico, the German Shepherd standing beside him. "He's more ready than I am. I think he believes he'll have plenty to do in retirement." Jenkins nodded, understanding the bond between the two. He'd been fresh out of the academy when Michael and Rico had found the missing Donaldson twins in that blizzard 6 years ago. Everyone had given up hope after 3 days, but not Rico. The department still talked about it. Rico had been Michael's K9 partner for 8 years. They had worked together on countless drug operations, missing person searches, and dangerous pursuits. But now, a new life was beginning for both of them. "The chief wants to see you," said Jenkins. "I think they've prepared a surprise goodbye party for you." Michael sighed. "They know I hate parties." "I know." Jenkins grinned. "That's why the whole department is waiting for you there." Sergeant Maria Vasquez passed by, stopping to scratch Rico behind the ears. "Still remember when this guy found that evidence in the Wellington case? The defense attorney nearly had a stroke when Rico sniffed out those hidden documents." "Saved the DA's case," Michael agreed. "Rico's got more convictions than most detectives." Detective Leroy Washington approached from the elevator, his rookie K9 partner Bella trotting beside him. The young German Shepherd was still in training, having just completed the certification program Michael had helped design. "My last trainee wants to say goodbye," Washington said with a smile. "Bella here has been trying to live up to Rico's reputation." Rico sniffed curiously at the younger dog, his tail wagging in approval. Michael had mentored Washington when he joined the K9 unit, passing along techniques he'd developed over decades. "You've left quite a legacy," Washington said, handing Michael an envelope. "Almost forgot. The commissioner sent this over. Probably another commendation for that business with the hospital hostage situation last month." Michael tucked the envelope into his pocket. That had been their last official case before paperwork and retirement preparations took over. Rico had detected the gunman hiding in the maintenance closet before he could carry out his plan, saving dozens of lives. "I'll open it later," Michael said. "Right now, let's face this party I'm supposedly not supposed to know about." Michael and Rico walked up the stairs toward the chief's office. Police officers in the hallway saluted Michael and petted Rico's head. Everyone knew this pair was one of the best teams in the department. "Is this Rico's last day too?" asked Officer Daniela Chen, a young police officer who had joined the force just 2 years ago. She had been mentored briefly by Michael during her field training. Michael nodded. "Yes, we're both retiring. From now on, it's time for long walks on the beach and lots of fishing." "You deserve it," Daniela said, remembering how Michael had talked her through her first major crime scene. She knelt down to Rico's level. "And you deserve all the treats in the world, hero." Rico wagged his tail as if understanding the sentiment perfectly. His service record included finding 43 missing persons, detecting narcotics in over 200 cases, and providing crucial evidence in dozens of major investigations. The framed photo of him and Michael receiving the Medal of Valor after the East Side School rescue hung prominently in the precinct's main hall. Detective Marcus Powell, who'd worked alongside Michael for 15 years in narcotics before transferring to homicide, approached with his custom-engraved pocket watch. "Almost forgot to give you this." The whole unit pitched in. Michael examined the watch, touched by the inscription, "To Detective Roberts and Rico, you showed us all what partnership means." "Thanks, Marcus. Remember that stake out in the snowstorm back in 17? Rico kept us all warm." "How could I forget? That dog saved us from hypothermia, and then still managed to track the suspect when the storm cleared." But just as they reached the chief's office, phones suddenly started ringing. Emergency calls came through the radios in the hallway. "Attention all units. Armed robbery at Central Bank. Suspects are heavily armed and there are hostages." Chief Davidson rushed out of his office with a worried look on his face. "Roberts, I know it's your last day, but—" Michael raised his hand. "I understand, Chief. Rico and I are ready." The chief hesitated. "Are you sure? We can send other teams." "Central Bank is in my neighborhood," Michael said firmly. "This is our job." Rico growled slightly, standing tall as if showing he was ready for duty. Behind them, the decorated conference room with "Happy Retirement" banners went unnoticed as officers rushed to respond to the emergency. Sergeant Vasquez was already coordinating teams while Detective Powell grabbed his tactical vest. "Plus," Michael added quietly, "my daughter Sophia works at that branch. She started last month." Chief Davidson's expression changed with this new information. He hadn't known about this personal connection, which explained Michael's immediate insistence on taking the call. "Let's move then." The chief nodded gravely. "But you follow protocols, understood? No lone wolf heroics on your last day." "All right," said Chief Davidson. "But be careful. Don't let this be your way of saying goodbye." Michael quickly checked his gun, tightened Rico's special police vest, and they ran down the stairs. When they got into the police car, Michael paused for a moment and looked at Rico. "One last mission, buddy. Then we'll get that quiet life I promised you." Rico's brown eyes met Michael's. It was as if he was saying, "I'm with you till the end." As they pulled out of the parking lot, Michael's phone rang. It was his ex-wife, Catherine. "Michael, are you hearing about Central Bank?" Her voice was tight with worry. "I'm on my way there now," he replied, putting the call on speaker as he navigated through traffic. "Sophia texted me she was working today. She's in there, Michael." His grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I know. That's why Rico and I are taking this call." Catherine's voice softened. "Rico's with you? Good. That dog has always had a sixth sense. Keep our girl safe." "We will," Michael promised, ending the call. Memories flooded his mind as he drove, teaching young Sophia to play fetch with puppy Rico in the backyard, the countless nights Rico had stayed by his side after the divorce, the way his daughter still brought special treats whenever she visited them. The personal stakes couldn't be higher. Central Bank was filled with chaos. When Michael arrived, the building was surrounded by police vehicles. The SWAT team was positioned at the front door. Chief Davidson was explaining the situation from the command center. 4 armed robbers, approximately 20 hostages. According to information from inside, one of the robbers is injured. The negotiator is trying to communicate with them, but no results so far. Lieutenant Jessica Ramirez, the department's lead negotiator and Michael's friend since the academy, approached with a blueprint of the building. "We've established contact, but they're agitated. Leader calls himself Spectre. We've ID'd him as Calvin Miller, 3-time felon with military background." "Any indication which staff members they're holding?" Michael asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "No visual confirmation yet," Jessica replied, not knowing about his daughter. "But they've threatened to execute hostages if their demands aren't met." Michael looked around while holding Rico's leash tightly. "Has the back of the building been checked?" "Not yet," said the chief. "The SWAT team is focused on the front door." "There's a service entrance that isn't on older blueprints," Michael noted, pointing to the building's rear. "It was added during renovations last year. Sophia mentioned it during her orientation." SWAT Commander Wilson joined them. "Your daughter works here?" "Teller position, started 3 weeks ago," Michael confirmed grimly. "And that door might be our best entry point." Michael nodded. "Rico and I will check the back. Maybe we can find an entry point there." The chief approved, and Michael and Rico moved away from the crowd and went around the bank building. Officer Elena Rodriguez, an up-and-coming K9 handler who had trained under Michael, volunteered to accompany them. "I know you work best with Rico alone," she said quietly, "but protocol requires backup." Michael appreciated her understanding. Elena had shown remarkable promise during the K9 training program. Her own partner, a Belgian Malinois named Zorro, was still in advanced certification. "Stay 10 paces behind us," Michael instructed. "Rico knows your scent, so he won't be distracted." When they reached the service entrance in the back alley, they noticed the door was slightly open. A small trail of blood droplets led inside. Michael whispered into his radio. "Command center, this is Roberts. Back door is open. We're going in." "Negative, Roberts," said the chief. "SWAT units are on the way. Stay put and wait." Elena noticed Michael's hesitation. She knew what Sophia meant to him. He kept her picture in his locker and sometimes shared stories from her childhood when they worked late shifts. "Michael," she whispered, "whatever you decide, I've got your back." But just then, a woman's scream came from inside, followed by a gunshot. Michael's heart nearly stopped. The voice sounded like Sophia's. He looked at Rico, whose ears had perked forward, sensing the urgency. "We don't have time to wait, buddy." With Michael's signal, Rico moved forward silently. The pair entered the dark hallway with Elena covering their 6. There were blood trails on the way to the bank vault. Rico followed the trail, guiding Michael. The building's emergency lights cast eerie shadows as they moved through the employee break room. Michael recognized Sophia's cardigan hanging on a chair. She'd worn it to Sunday dinner just last week. His chest tightened, but years of training kept him focused. Elena stayed back, maintaining radio contact with the command center while giving Michael and Rico space to work. She had witnessed their almost supernatural connection during training exercises, how Rico could anticipate Michael's commands before they were given. As they approached the main banking area, the voices became clearer. "Fill the bag! Hurry up!" a male voice shouted. "The police are coming! We need to hurry!" said another voice. Through the small window in the door, Michael could see hostages huddled on the ground. Among them was Sophia, her dark hair pulled back in the same ponytail she'd worn since childhood. She was comforting an elderly customer beside her, showing the same compassion that had made Michael so proud when she'd announced her decision to work at the community-focused bank branch rather than the corporate headquarters downtown. Elena whispered into her radio, confirming hostage count and positions while Michael assessed the situation, formulating a plan that would keep his daughter and the others safe. Michael signaled Rico, and the dog quietly turned the corner. When they reached the main banking area, they saw 4 armed men holding customers and employees hostage. One of the robbers was injured and bleeding from his arm. Through the partially open door, Michael recognized the leader, Calvin Spector Miller. He'd arrested Miller's brother during a drug raid 5 years ago. The man had sworn vengeance, but disappeared overseas. Now, apparently, he was back with a score to settle. From his position, Michael could see Sophia surreptitiously using her cell phone under a desk, likely sending location data to the police. She had her mother's courage. Another hostage, an elderly security guard named Frank Wilson, who had retired from the force years ago, caught Michael's eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Frank had been Michael's first partner decades ago before transferring to private security. Michael whispered into his radio, "Command center, I see 4 armed suspects, approximately 15 hostages, ready to intervene." "Negative, Roberts," the chief repeated. "SWAT will be there in 2 minutes. Stay put." Elena, positioned behind them, signaled that SWAT was indeed gearing up at the perimeter. But Michael knew from experience how quickly situations like this could escalate. But at that moment, the injured robber grabbed a female hostage and put his gun to her head. Michael's blood ran cold. It was Sophia. "I hear the police. If I don't get an escape route in 5 minutes, I'll kill this woman." "She's just a new teller," pleaded the bank manager, Mrs. Yamamoto. "She doesn't deserve this." "Shut up," yelled Miller. "Nobody moves, or the girl dies first." Michael looked at Rico. During their 8-year partnership, they had developed a bond where they could understand each other without speaking. Rico seemed to read what Michael was thinking. The dog's muscles tensed slightly, ready for action. Across the room, old Frank caught Michael's eye again and subtly shifted position, ready to create a distraction if needed. Next to him, a pregnant woman was showing signs of distress, adding to the urgency of the situation. "Roberts," Elena whispered, "your daughter's life is at stake. Are you sure you can make the right call?" Michael appreciated her concern, but his years of training had prepared him for this moment. Personal feelings had to be set aside for the safety of all hostages. Michael took a deep breath. "Rico, get ready." Then he suddenly stepped out from the corner, pointing his gun at one of the robbers. "Police, drop your weapons!" Chaos broke out instantly. The robbers were surprised for a moment, but quickly began shooting at Michael. When Michael signaled Rico, the dog shot forward like an arrow. Miller's eyes widened in recognition. "Roberts, is that you?" The momentary confusion gave Rico the opening he needed. Rico jumped directly at the robber holding the hostage. The dog's 90-pound body knocked the man to the ground. The gun moved away from Sophia's head. Michael shot another robber, wounding him in the arm. "Dad!" Sophia cried out, diving for cover behind a counter as gunfire erupted across the bank lobby. Elena rushed in after Michael, directing terrified hostages toward the exit while returning fire. Her years of tactical training with Michael were paying off as she maintained calm under pressure. Old Frank, Michael's former partner, used the distraction to tackle a third robber despite his 70 years of age. The move was impressive, a testament to his decades on the force, but it left him exposed. "Frank, down!" Michael shouted, seeing the danger before it materialized. But the third robber was hiding behind columns and suddenly aimed his gun at Rico. "Rico!" Michael shouted, running toward his dog. The gunshot echoed in the room. Michael saw, almost in slow motion, blood spraying from Rico's body. The dog fell to the ground, but still managed to sink his teeth into the robber's arm. Dr. James Wilson, a veterinarian who happened to be among the hostages, crawled toward Rico even as bullets flew overhead. "I'll try to help him," he called to Michael. Michael angrily ran toward the man who shot Rico. The robber turned to him and raised his gun. 2 guns fired at the same time. Michael felt a burning in his chest. His bulletproof vest had taken the hit, but the impact still knocked him backward. Lying on the ground, he saw Rico, though injured, taking down the robber who jumped on him with one last effort. "Daddy!" Sophia screamed, rushing toward her fallen father despite the danger. Miller, seeing his plan falling apart, grabbed Mrs. Yamamoto and backed toward the emergency exit. "Nobody move or she dies!" Elena, seeing the bank manager in danger, took careful aim. Her shot caught Miller in the shoulder, causing him to release his hostage. Mrs. Yamamoto stumbled forward, falling into Elena's protective grasp. As the SWAT team burst through the doors, Michael was only trying to reach Rico. When he got to his dog's side, Rico's white police vest was soaked with blood. Dr. Wilson was already applying pressure to the wound, his experienced hands moving with precision despite the chaos. "Ambulance!" Michael shouted. "K9 down!" "We need a veterinary ambulance now." Sophia knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face. "Rico saved my life, Dad. He jumped right at that man without hesitation." Frank limped over, his own arm bleeding from a grazing shot. "Just like old times, partner. That dog of yours is a hero." Elena was coordinating with SWAT, ensuring the scene was secure while keeping an eye on Rico and Michael. "Veterinary emergency unit is 4 minutes out," she reported, her voice professional despite the emotion in her eyes. The pregnant hostage, now safely behind police lines, called out, "That dog saved all of us. Please tell me he'll be okay." Rico's eyes opened weakly, his gaze locked onto Michael's. It was as if he was saying, "I did my job, didn't I?" "You did good, buddy," Michael whispered, taking Rico's head into his lap. "Hang on, please hang on." Dr. Wilson continued applying pressure to Rico's wound. "The bullet seems to have missed his vital organs, but he's lost a lot of blood. We need to get him to a veterinary hospital immediately." The emergency veterinary unit arrived, and paramedics rushed to Rico's side. Among them was Lisa Chen, a specialist in K9 emergency medicine, who had worked with police dogs for 15 years. "I've got him, Detective Roberts," she assured Michael as her team carefully lifted Rico onto a stretcher. "We'll do everything possible." The hospital corridors seemed endless to Michael. He had been waiting outside the emergency veterinary service door for hours. Rico's surgery was still ongoing. Sophia sat beside him, her uniform still stained with Rico's blood. "He knew it was me, Dad," she whispered. "When that man grabbed me, I saw Rico's eyes. He recognized me before he jumped." Michael squeezed her hand. The thought that Rico had specifically saved his daughter made his heart both swell with pride and constrict with fear. The bond between dog and handler extended to family. Rico had always been protective of Sophia since she was a teenager. "Roberts," said Chief Davidson sitting next to him. "Go home, get some rest, I'll call you." Michael shook his head. I'm not going anywhere while Rico is here." The chief sighed. "Michael, I know he's not just a dog. He's my partner," Michael said firmly. "And today he took a bullet meant for me. I'm staying here and that's final." Elena arrived with coffee for everyone. "The commissioner is on his way. The media is calling Rico a hero. Footage from the bank's security cameras shows everything." Frank Wilson, his arm now bandaged, joined them in the waiting area. That dog's tougher than most officers I've known. He'll pull through. Dr. James Wilson, who had ridden in the ambulance with Rico, emerged from the observation room. I've spoken with the surgical team. They're doing everything possible, but the next few hours will be critical. Hours passed. The bank robbers had been caught, the hostages rescued. Michael's chest bruise didn't even need treatment, but Rico was still in surgery. Near midnight, veterinary surgeon Dr. Peterson came out of the operating room. The expression on his face froze Michael's heart. Catherine, Michael's ex-wife, arrived just then, rushing to embrace Sophia and then Michael. Despite their divorce, she had always had a soft spot for Rico, who had often stayed with her when Michael worked night shifts. "How is he?" she asked, her voice breaking. "The hero who saved our daughter?" Officer Rodriguez stood silently in the corner, her usual professional demeanor cracking as she awaited news about the K9 partner who had inspired her own career path. "The bullet passed close to his lung," said Dr. Peterson. "He lost a lot of blood. The surgery was successful, but the next 24 hours are critical. If he can make it through the night," Dr. Lisa Chen added, "we've administered a specialized plasma treatment developed specifically for working K9s. It's experimental, but has shown promising results in similar cases." Michael tried to swallow the lump in his throat. "Can I see him?" Dr. Peterson nodded and led Michael to the intensive care unit. Rico was lying in a large cage. His body was wrapped in bandages, and IVs were connected to his veins. His chest was rising and falling with difficulty. "Only one visitor at a time, doctor," Peterson explained. "Talk to him, he can hear you. Police dogs have remarkable will to live, especially when their handlers are present." Sophia squeezed her father's hand. "Tell him I said thank you. Tell him he's the bravest dog in the world." Michael sat next to Rico and gently placed his hand on the dog's head. "Hey buddy, I'm here. I won't leave you alone." Outside the room, reporters had gathered. The story of Rico's heroism had spread quickly. K9 officers from neighboring districts arrived, forming an impromptu honor guard in the hospital corridor. Among them was Tony Martinez, who had trained with Michael years ago and now ran the regional K9 training facility. "Your boy's a legend now," Tony told Sophia in the waiting room. "We're already planning to name our new training field after him." "He's going to make it," Sophia insisted. "He has to." In the late hours of the night, Michael fell asleep next to Rico. In his dream, he saw the day they first met. Rico was only 2 years old, just finished with his training. Michael had immediately noticed his sharp intelligence and courage. In the dream, training officer Ramirez had said, "This one's special, Roberts. The bond you two form will be unbreakable." How right she had been. Through divorces, moves, Sophia's college years, and countless dangerous situations, Rico had been his constant companion, never wavering in loyalty. Toward morning, he woke up with a sudden movement. He felt Rico moving in his bed. Michael quickly sat up. Rico's eyes were open and looking directly at him. "Rico," Michael whispered, not believing his eyes. Rico's tail moved slightly. This was the best answer for Michael. Catherine and Sophia, who had been dozing in the waiting room, rushed in when they heard Michael's exclamation of joy. Dr. Chen followed, checking Rico's vitals with evident relief. "His blood pressure has stabilized," she confirmed. "Remarkable improvement overnight." During the morning visit, Doctor, Peterson said Rico's condition had stabilized. "He's an amazing fighter," he said with a smile, "but he has a long recovery process ahead." Outside, Officer Elena Rodriguez was updating the growing crowd of well-wishers and fellow officers. "The hero of Central Bank is showing improvement," she announced to cheers and applause. Local K9 units had brought their partners, each dog seeming to understand the solemn yet hopeful atmosphere as they sat at attention near the hospital entrance. Michael sat in the chair next to Rico. "You know, yesterday was supposed to be our last mission. We were retiring." Dr. Peterson looked at Michael with understanding. What will you do now? Michael gently stroked Rico's head. I'm going to heal him. Then we'll start that quiet life I promised. As the doctor left, Catherine entered with Sophia. The department called, Catherine said. They want to know if you need anything. The entire K9 fund has been made available for Rico's treatment. And my bank is starting a fundraiser, Sophia added. All the hostages want to contribute to his recovery. Months passed. Rico's recovery was a long and difficult process. Michael postponed his retirement plans and devoted all his time to Rico's rehabilitation. They went to physical therapy sessions every day and did treatment exercises. Dr. Amara Patel, a specialist in canine rehabilitation from the University Veterinary Hospital, developed a custom program for Rico. His determination is remarkable, she told Michael during their third week. Most dogs would have given up by now. In the beginning, Rico had trouble even walking. But with Michael's patience and support, he slowly grew stronger. First, they took short walks, then they started running. Elena Rodriguez visited weekly, often bringing her K9 partner, Zorro. The younger dog seemed to encourage Rico, playing gently and demonstrating the movements Rico was struggling to remaster. Sometimes when Rico whimpered in pain, Michael would lie down next to him, stroke his head for hours, comforting him. I'm here for you, buddy, he would whisper. Always. During the 4th month of recovery, Frank Wilson, Michael's old partner, invited them to his countryside cabin. The fresh air will do wonders, he insisted, and I've built a special ramp so Rico can enjoy the lake view. The change of scenery proved beneficial. Rico's strength returned more rapidly in the peaceful setting, away from the city's noise and stress. 6 months later, Rico had almost completely recovered. He had regained his old speed and agility. Michael moved with him to the beach house they had promised each other. Every morning, they walked on the beach at sunrise, and in the evenings, they sat on the balcony as the sun set. Sophia visited often, bringing her new puppy, a German shepherd named Nova that she'd adopted from the police breeding program. Rico's grandniece, she explained proudly. The trainer said she has his intelligence. Rico took to mentoring the puppy immediately, seemingly pleased to pass on his knowledge to the next generation. The department hadn't forgotten them either. Chief Davidson ensured that Rico received full medical retirement benefits, something unprecedented for a K9 officer. After what he did, the chief explained, how could we do any less? The story of Rico's heroism spread, inspiring a children's book series about police dogs and a scholarship fund for veterinary students specializing in working dog medicine. As Michael watched Rico playing with Nova on the beach one evening, he realized that while their active duty had ended dramatically, their legacy would continue through all the lives they'd touched. This brings us to the end of this story. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story, if you did. Don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.